Okay, this is video 1 of 2 for the week of September 25th, 2017. And this is related to the work that the independent track folks need to complete this week in the Big History course. So we are going to start out, and obviously if you're watching this video, you've already done this, but I just want to reiterate this to clarify. DickersonPL.com. Let's just go to the homepage real quick. It's going to change its look. I've adjusted a few things because we had some trouble with it. I had some trouble with it. But this is where I'm going to do my best to dish out instructions on a weekly basis for you. If for some reason the site continues to act up, we might need to change this. But just so you know, for the foreseeable future, until I say otherwise, this is where you should go to get your instructions. I guess that doesn't zoom in, but anyway, DickersonPL.com. And then you want to find the 10th independent section. There's also a menu for it up here. So if you wanted to just click on that, you could do it that way. And then the week of is the week in question is the one you want to click on. Okay, the way these are going to be set up from this point forward is there'll be an opening section. Okay, all of this is just kind of like a recap of where we've been and maybe a few suggestions or communications that I want to have with you. So you should definitely read through that. The week in question, this week's plan will be here. And here I have a recap of what you should have some understanding about. But then, most important, this week we are going to focus on, and in this case, it is lesson 1.3, claim testing, which we're going to jump into Big History here in just a moment. But I wanted to point a few things out. I will, from this point forward, list each activity. So when you're in the Big History lesson and you know how you see each one of those activities associated with each lesson, I'm going to list them all. And I will let you know if they are required or not. So not required, they'll be in red. However, the things that are required will be in green. I'll also show you in the Big History view how to identify that. But again, I'm just trying to make this super clear so that everybody knows exactly what to do. Below that section will be links to this week's videos, and you should absolutely read those. I don't recommend that you only read sorry, I might have said read those videos. Anyway, watch those videos. I don't recommend that you only read these instructions. The videos, which is what this is you're listening to, if you're listening to this, obviously you took this advice, you want to watch these as well because they will go into greater depth and help clarify some things. So, okay, you'll notice that in lesson 1.3 claim testing, the first 3 activities are not required. So let's jump over there real quick. Let me just go back to the home page. We're still in Unit 1. Okay, we have completed Lesson 1.0, Lesson 1.1, and Lesson 1.2, or at least we should have. We are working on Lesson 1.3, claim testing. And I just want to point out the first 3 things are listed as optional. So that's how you know they're not required. But again, you can also just look at those instructions I just showed you. And there's also an additional one, analyzing investigation writing, that is listed as optional. The other things we are doing, we're reading this article, we're watching this video, we're reading this article, and we're completing this investigation activity, okay? This actually is connected to this. It's like a form where you would fill in some writing. You don't have to do that. There's no way for me to list that as optional. It's connected to this, but you don't have to do this because the writing that you're going to do will be in your actual physical notebooks that I've given you. So let's, as always, jump into start lesson. That's the view that you always want to take. By all, of course, read this section up here. It gives you a quick overview. Read the lesson outcomes, guys. This is just getting into good habits around learning. You don't want to just jump into something and have no idea what it's about. These outcomes help you start to think about what you should be getting out of this. As you read through different sections, you want to look at purpose because it gives you a sense for why this activity is even being used. Now, let's scroll on down because we know this first one wasn't necessary. The second one wasn't necessary. The third one wasn't necessary. The very first one that we have to do in lesson 1.3 is this article. We are going to read Approaches to Knowledge. But I wanted to point out a few things. First, anytime there's an article, you're going to see a link to the article and a link to this thing called a 3 close reads. This is maybe a little bit confusing. I have addressed it already before, but if you haven't watched the videos, maybe you don't know this. You are not required to use this 3 close reads form. What you'll see if you click on it is it's just the format that Big History suggests for taking notes. It's this process where you read parts of the article 3 different times, and each time you're doing something slightly different with it. So this first reading is about capturing gist, and you're you're scanning some things and you're making some predictions. And then the second reading, you're doing a full notes, reading it completely, taking notes as you would otherwise. And then the third one, you're answering some bigger questions. And if you have to go back and read it that third time, you do it. I am not asking you to do that. So just know that anytime you come to an article in Big History and it has that, you can ignore it. The only confusing part is that in the process section, a lot of times you'll see reference to capturing gist. Okay, that's related to that way of taking notes that Big History uses. Again, you can ignore that. But let's talk a little bit about how we move through each activity. So here's the basic approach. Okay, so here we are. We know we're going to read this article called Approaches to Knowledge. Before we click into it, okay, read the purpose. Read the process, read the key ideas, read the conceptual thinking, and read the summary. All of that it'll take you just a couple of minutes, and it'll give you a good sense for what you're in for, what you should be looking for. It'll help you get more out of that particular resource. As you are doing that, guys, you have to take notes. Nobody in the class at this point is taking notes as I've expected you to. Please go back to the Big History playlist on my YouTube channel and watch the instructional video about how to take notes. Just to remind you, in every lesson, okay, I would expect to see 1.3 claim testing written in bold across the paper, wherever you're at. And then the very first thing you do in that one, in this case, it's called Approaches to Knowledge. You're going to put that, Approaches to Knowledge, write it. And then you're going to put purpose. Write the word purpose. Take a note or two here. Read through process. Process is where you're really going to be told exactly how to move through that article, or it might give you some information that is useful. In any case, under process, that's where you would maybe take your notes related to this particular resource. When you get to key ideas, whether this is an article, a video, or whatever, if there are questions in this key ideas section, you are to answer them. So I would expect to see a subheading, key ideas, factual, and then each one of these questions with an answer. Okay, you don't have to necessarily rewrite the question, but I would expect to see the number 1 and see your answer there, the number 2 and see your answer there. In conceptual thinking, there's almost always a question that finishes that little section. You should answer that question under conceptual thinking subheading. And then summary, okay? Write summary and a quick note. Again, I'm not asking you to write novels, but a few words here or there, a few sentences, depending on what it is, okay? But you have to do that because that shows me that you are engaging in the content. When you are done with that article and you've taken all of those notes, you move to the next one. In this case, it's a video, and I am requiring it. Again, if we go back to this, it's video. How do we decide what to believe? It says required. How do we decide what to believe? Okay, read the purpose, read the process, read the key ideas, read the conceptual thinking, read the summary. Again, all of that gives you a heads up for what to expect and what to be looking for. A quick reminder, when it is a video, see how this says key ideas from video? Key ideas, 3 questions. What is a claim? Okay, and those other 2. If you click right there, it expands it. What is a claim? If you click on that, it's going to take you to the place in the video where it talks about the answer to that question. So, of course, you should watch the video first, but if you get stuck on answering one of these questions, go back up there and click in there and rewatch that section. Super important. In all cases, after you've read through the purpose, process, key ideas, etc., that's when you go watch the video, or that's when you go read the article. Okay, take your notes and then come back and finish this up.